What is up, YouTube? It is your boy NMR Sports. Today we're going to be talking about my predictions for the 2021 season. Who's going to finish in first place? Who's going to finish in last place in their division? We're going to talk about every single division in this video. If you want to hear me go more in depth on these, I do have a podcast called the Diamond in the Rough podcast. I'll have it linked in the description. We have just released our first episode on the NL Central, where we go super in-depth. We spend about 10 minutes or so talking about each team, then give our projections, things like that. So if you want a longer version of this, it is in the description below. Just the AL Central video should be released right now, so give that one a listen. If you want to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, it's NMR Sports 30. That'll also be in the description. I also stream on Twitch 3 days a week. I just released my new stream schedule. You'll see it on Twitter. But yeah, we can talk more about baseball there. I also have a Discord where you can throw some hot takes in. But when you're listening to this video here, I want you guys to throw your predictions for the 2021 season in the comment section below. So if you're listening to this, go ahead and tell me who you think the 2021 division leaders are going to be, who's going to finish in last, and give me your hottest take down there, because I'm pretty curious what everybody thinks, and I want to have some more baseball discussion, so let's talk about it. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get right into the video, into the National League West, and talk about the last place team, which I believe will be the Colorado Rockies. Now, the Colorado Rockies are, I guess they're better than the Pirates. That's about the biggest compliment I can give them. They still have Charlie Blackmon. Obviously, they have Trevor Story. They have German Marquez. There's a few other pieces around there. Brendan Rodgers is a big prospect, things like that. But at the end of the day, this division's too stacked. First of all, there's no chance that they're going to win this division. There's no chance they make a wild card spot. So at the end of the day, if I'm them, I'm trading Trevor Story. I'm trading German Marquez. Just trade these guys away. You don't have a shot at the division in the next few years, and you already traded Nolan Arenado away. So at the end of the day, they only added a few mediocre players, you know, Austin Gomber, things like that. I don't even remember the other guys' names. So at the end of the day, trade Trevor Story, do whatever you want, I guess. Get some prospects, because you're going to be in the midst of a rebuild very, very soon. So Colorado Rockies, 5th place team. I don't think that's a very hot take or anything. Now, my pick for the 4th place team is actually going to be the Arizona Diamondbacks. They have a decent lineup, actually, when you think about it, with Ketel Marte, Christian Walker, Cole Calhoun, I'm really high on, Eduardo Escobar, Nick Ahmed, obviously Tim LaCastro. They have a lot of decent pieces on this lineup. I just absolutely despise the rotation. Zach Gallen is an absolute stud. I love Zach Gallen, but after him, there's 50 feet of crap. Madison Bumgarner was disgustingly awful last year, and I honestly could not name another. I'm looking at the roster right now. I can't name another starter on this team. I legitimately don't know who their second starter is besides Madison Bumgarner. So at the end of the day, I do like their bullpen quite a bit. They signed Joakim Soria. That was a good signing for them. But their starting rotation just needs work. Zach Gallen can't win you every single game of the week. So Diamondbacks, I think 4th place is a really good spot for them, especially talking about our 3rd place team, the San Francisco Giants. Now, the San Francisco Giants, they have a pretty good lineup. I do like their pitching a little bit more than the Diamondbacks. That's the only reason I gave them the edge here. They went out and signed guys like Jake McGee to be in their bullpen. They signed Alex Wood, which was kind of good for them. They also re-signed Kevin Gausman, I believe. I think he was a free agent this year. Buster Posey's going to be back, so that's going to be huge for them. They also signed Tommy La Stella, which will be a good addition for that lineup. Obviously, they have guys, prospects coming up like Julio Ramos. They have Joey Bart, which is going to be interesting. I assume Buster Posey's going to play a lot more first base than catcher this year, and Joey Bart will get that catching nod. Alex Dickerson was really good for them last year. Austin Slater's pretty good. And you can't forget about Mike Yastrzemski when you're talking about these Giants. So they have a pretty decent lineup, like I said. Brandon Belt, I didn't even mention. Brandon Crawford, I didn't even mention. And Evan Longoria, I forgot, dude. They have a lot of old random guys on the team that I forget are still in the major leagues. But at the end of the day, like I said, good lineup, solid pitching, just not good enough to make a playoff spot. They'll be fun to watch next year, and I think they'll win, I feel like there's a 3rd place trophy that the Rockies, the Diamondbacks, and the Giants are all fighting over. I kind of have like this picture in my head of it, and I feel like the Giants are on the top of that 3rd place trophy mountain or whatever. Now let's talk about the 2nd place team. I don't think this is a very controversial pick. The San Diego Padres are going to be your 2nd place team. They tried. You know what? They get another round of applause for trying to be better than the Dodgers. I'm sorry. Nobody can do it. They're just so fucking good. The Padres are going to be really good next year, though. They're going to be a very scary team, and there's a 0% chance they miss the playoffs. They got Fernando Tatis Jr. They have him locked down for 13, 14 years now. Manny Machado is obviously a stud. Jake Cronenworth was really good last year. They signed Ha-Seong Kim, who could be one of the most underrated signings of the offseason. They still have Eric Hosmer, who was pretty good last year. Will Myers was pretty good for them last year. Tommy Pham was really good. Trent Grisham was really good. Even at catcher, I think they still have Austin Nola. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I really like this Padres team, not to mention their lights-out rotation between Snell, Darvish, Musgrove, Lamet. I do think Mackenzie Gore might find his way up to the major leagues at some point this season, and they have a really good bullpen too, so there's no reason to think that the Padres aren't one of the best teams in baseball. The unfortunate news is the best team in baseball is in the same division as them. Of course, talking about the Los Angeles Dodgers, they're your first-place team in the division. Obviously, the Dodgers are the best team in baseball. They proved it last year after losing 2 straight World Series. They lost 2017, 2018 World Series. 2019, they got eliminated by the World Series winner. And 2020, in the Mickey Mouse World Series, that's a joke, by the way, Dodgers fans, don't come at me. They finally won their first World Series since 1988, I believe. So all those guys finally got rings. The only notable player that I can think of off the top of my head that they lost, it was Kike Hernandez. I'm sure they lost other players. I just can't even think of their names right now. Cody Bellinger needs to have a bounce back season for them, but at the end of the day, they still have Mookie Betts, who could definitely win the MVP next year. They still re-signed Justin Turner, which honestly, I don't even think they needed. Yeah, between Edwin Rios and Gavin Lux, who they could definitely call up, I think they would have had third base covered fine, and also Chris Taylor can play third base as well. So I think third base would have been fine, even if they didn't re-sign Justin Turner, but you know what? Fuck what I think. They're just gonna spend $350 million and not care. Obviously, they signed Trevor Bauer, and they're paying him $40 million a year to be the third best pitcher in that rotation. Clayton Kershaw is still amazing. Walker Buehler is still amazing. Julio Urias isn't even going to get to pitch in their rotation, I feel like, because Dustin May's too damn good. And even if Julio Urias is in the rotation, Dustin May's not going to be in the rotation. David Price is coming back. Somebody help me with this squad. They even got a better bullpen this offseason with Blake Treinen coming back. They signed Corey Knebel, who I can never pronounce his name correctly. Tommy Kahnle's going to be there. I think he's having surgery, so I don't think he's going to pitch this year. But my God, they're just so good. The Dodgers are so good. Will Smith is their catcher, and he's one of the best hitters in baseball, but they also have Keibert Ruiz, who's a stud prospect catcher. Dude, it's not fair. It's not fair. Like, I feel how optimistic I am about the White Sox and how excited I am for them, I'm equally as pissed off at the Dodgers for being so damn good, so nobody has a chance to win. If they don't win the World Series, it'll be a huge letdown. So if you're a Dodgers fan, expect another ring, expect another t-shirt. You're gonna go out and buy another hat, another jersey. Get ready. It could be a dynasty, man. They could win the next 3 World Series. I don't even know. The only players that are really going to be missing pretty soon, obviously they're going to have to re-sign Cody Bellinger or Corey Seager, but that's a topic for another time. Let's get on to the next division. We're going to talk about the National League Central, potentially the worst division in all of baseball. Now the Pirates, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Of course, we got to talk about them first. They potentially could set a new record for losses in the MLB. If it wasn't for their division being as bad as it is, I would honestly project them to be the worst baseball team of all time, because they're potentially in that conversation. Obviously, Ke'Bryan Hayes is going to be a stud next year. I definitely have him as the Rookie of the Year. I have him as the Rookie of the Year. O'Neal Cruz is coming up, and he could potentially be really good for them next year as well. Unfortunately, guys like Gregory Polanco, who was once a top prospect, hasn't been very good for them. Colin Moran is like mediocre at best, but he's still a good player on that team. Jacob Stallings is another guy I can think of. At the end of the day, I don't think I can name a single pitcher on this roster. That's not true. We did an episode on this, and I looked at their roster, and I think Jeff Hartlieb, spelled Joff Hartlieb, he's the only pitcher I know, and I only know him because his name sounds funny. I actually talked to him on Twitter. He's a really cool guy. I'll put that on the screen. But yeah, at the end of the day, Pirates, last place team. Not really much else to say there. They suck. Ke'Bryan Hayes is really good. Expect him to be a Rookie of the Year winner and MVP candidate potentially. Not to win it, but, you know, get an MVP vote or two. Maybe a second or third place vote. Now, in 4th place team, I gotta hide for this one. The Chicago Cubs. No. The Chicago Cubs, I just don't know. Okay, realistically speaking, between the Cincinnati Reds, the Chicago Cubs, and the Milwaukee Brewers, it's literally a 1-game difference. So are they a bad 4th place team? Not necessarily, but my God, your pitching needs work. Your pitching needs so much work. The only 3 guys I recognize on your staff are Kyle Hendricks, Kyle Hendricks, Danny Winkler, and only from Battle Royale, and that would be the show, and then obviously Craig Kimbrell. I don't think that's a notable enough squad to get you to the playoffs, and even if you made the playoffs, I assume you get swept again, kind of like you did go by the Marlins last year. So yeah, Chicago Cubs, I'm going to call you a fourth place team. I'm sorry. Your lineup is very good. I know you added Jock Peterson this season, but you also got rid of potentially the best pitcher in all of baseball. One of them, at least. Definitely a top 10 pitcher in all of baseball. And you let Johnny Lester go. That was kind of heartbreaking because he wanted to stay. You just didn't let him stay. But I digress. They just don't have the pitching to go out and make a playoff run. I'm sorry. I'm going to call you a fourth place team. That's kind of just to offend Cubs fans. Do I really think you're a fourth place team? Probably not. But it's kind of funny to piss you off. Now going into the third place team, we're going to talk about the Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati Reds, you're probably worse than the Cubs, like I said, but I'm going to call you the third place team for the fun of it, just because you have two potential aces in Luis Castillo and Sonny Gray. Luis Castillo could be one of the best young pitchers in baseball. Sonny Gray was really good the last few years, and I really like him, of course. So those two guys at the top of your rotation, put that in with a pretty solid lineup with Nick Castellanos, Mike Moustakas, Eugenio Suarez has great power. Who's that guy? Tyler Stevenson is a stud catching prospect for you guys. Joey Votto obviously is still really good, even though he's a little bit older in years. Jesse Winker, not even to mention him. They have Shogo Akiyama, who kind of sucked last year, but, you know, once a stud prospect, there's still potential there. Aristides Aquino is still really young, and he has had flashes of being talented in the past, so who knows what they do with him. So at the end of the day, I do think the Reds could potentially make a third place run in this division. I don't really think that. I think that's kind of their ceiling. They definitely can't win this division, in my opinion, but I do think they could be a third place team and surprise some teams next year. Now, going off of the Cincinnati Reds, going into second place spot, I really like this team a lot, and that is the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, the Milwaukee Brewers, I honestly could see potentially winning the NL Central because they have an amazing bullpen, they have a solid rotation, and they have a good lineup. They have one of the best players in baseball in Christian Yelich. Keston Hiura is a stud prospect. They signed Colton Wong, who's elite defensively. They have good guys in their outfield too. Lorenzo Cain's coming back after taking a year off. Avisel Garcia is pretty good. Corey Ray was a prospect who's coming up, and he's pretty good. They don't really have a solid catcher or anything, but at the end of the day, I think their lineup's good enough to get the job done. I feel like the Brewers lineup is better than the Cubs rotation, if that makes sense, which is why I have them in the second place spot versus the Cubs in the fourth place spot. When it comes to pitching, I get really offended by it because I know that you need good pitching to make the playoffs, and the Brewers definitely have that kind of pitching to get them to the playoffs. Could they make a deep playoff run? No. But I think it's kind of surprising. They could possibly make a run at the top of this division and, give our first place team that we're going to talk about here a run for their money. And that, of course, is the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, the St. Louis Cardinals, at the end of the day, they're a very underrated team. Very underrated team. If you want to have some fun, just go look at this roster that they have and look at some of these names and their stats. They have a very underrated team and a lot of stud prospects that could pan out this year. Their outfield's probably going to be three prospects in Harrison Bader, Dylan Carlson, and Tyler O'Neill, any of which three could be super big breakout studs. Harrison Bader's already been great defensively, he just hasn't put up the offensive numbers. Dylan Carlson is one of the smoothest swings I've ever seen of all time, and Tyler O'Neill is just freakishly strong and freakishly fast. So realistically, at the end of the day, any one of those three guys could have an amazing breakout season. And obviously adding Nolan Arenado is going to help a lot defensively and offensively. So finally, Paul Goldschmidt's going to have some protection in the lineup. They have Paul DeJong at shortstop. Second base, I honestly, off the top of my head, I can't think of who their second baseman is. Somebody tell me in the comments there. And then they re-signed Yadier Molina as well to be their catcher again, which is going to help. Adam Wainwright's in that rotation. Jack Flaherty might be one of probably not the best pitcher in this division, but he definitely could be the best pitcher in this division here. Miles Mikolas is pretty decent. Giovanni Gallegos has been a good reliever for a while. Andrew Miller's still a solid reliever. Jordan Hicks can still throw 104 miles per hour. Alex Reyes, once upon a time, was a stud prospect. So I think it's a really good outlook for the... I even forgot about Kwon Hyun Kim. Dude, there's a lot of good players on this Cardinals roster that you just don't think about until you look at it. So Cardinals fans, you have a very good reason to be optimistic this year, but I would say watch out for those Brewers. I'm pretty high on those Brewers as well. Now let's talk about one of the most exciting divisions, if not the most exciting division in all of baseball. That, of course, is the National League East. Now, when we go into the NL East, we of course got to start with the last place team. That is going to be the Miami Marlins. Now, the Miami Marlins don't have a bad team, but at the end of the day, their division is just so damn good. It's really hard to see them not being last place in this division. They still have guys like Brian Anderson, Jesus Aguilar. They added Adam Duvall this offseason. They still have a pretty decent rotation. Sixto Sanchez is absolutely a stud in that rotation there. They still have some good pieces. Jorge Alfaro is a decent catcher. Corey Dickerson's a solid outfielder there. I think they still have Starling Marte. I'm not 100% sure. But at the end of the day, like I said, the Marlins do have a pretty good roster, and they have a lot of young studs like Jazz Chisholm coming up. San Diaz is still there. They have a lot of guys that you could, Miguel Rojas, I forgot about him. At the end of the day, like I said, I'm big on the Miami Marlins. They're going to be a good, maybe the best last place team in baseball, but nonetheless, in this division, they're going to have to be the last place team, in my opinion. Now, that was a very cluttered, worded phrasing of Miami Marlins, but we're going to move on to the fourth place team, and I know you guys are all expecting me to say the Philadelphia Phillies, but I'm actually, after second thought, going with the Washington Nationals. Now, the reason for this is I looked at their roster, and Yan Gomes is still their starting catcher. Carter Kieboom is still their starting third baseman. And with those two spots, I really don't like this lineup anymore. I love the top of the order, don't get me wrong. Trey Turner's an absolute stud. I think Josh Bell's gonna have a bounce back year. I think Kyle Schwarber's a great addition to this team. I think Juan Soto is the best player in all of baseball. Not best player in all of baseball. The best hitter in all of baseball. Sorry, Mike Trout. Yeah, so at the end of the day, I just don't see this team being good enough to beat the Phillies because, I don't know, they have good pitching. I just don't really like their lineup. I like the Phillies lineup more. I like the Phillies rotation about the same, and the Nationals don't have the most amazing bullpen in all of baseball. They did add Brad Hand, which is a good addition as a closer, but, you know, closers are kind of unpredictable sometimes. Yeah, so at the end of the day, I just don't really see the Nationals being a third place team in this division anymore. I was really high on them when they were making moves throughout the season, but now that I see Yan Gomes as their best option at catcher and Carter Kieboom is their best option at third, who knows, Carter Kieboom could live up to his prospect potential, but I don't know if he's quite ready for that yet. He seems like a guy they brought up a little bit too early, needs some more development in the minor leagues. But who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. I do have the Washington Nationals, the fourth place team, though. Now, moving on to the third place team, that, of course, is going to be the fourth place team, the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm just going to confuse everybody with that statement. The Philadelphia Phillies have a great lineup. Rhys Hoskins, a stud. Bryce Harper, stud. Andrew McCutchen, stud. He just keeps getting hurt. JT Realmuto, obviously, best catcher in baseball. Didi Gregorius is a stud. He only hits the right field, but he's still a stud. They have a very good lineup over there in Philly. They have a very good rotation between Zach Wheeler and Austin Nola being at the top of that rotation. I honestly, off the top of my head, couldn't tell you who their number 3 starter is over there. But they did make some good additions to the bullpen this year. Archie Bradley went over there. They traded for Jose Alvarado, who hasn't had that good of success, but he throws absolute gas, so that's going to help them there, and he's still really young. So hopefully the Phillies can get their bullpen back up to par or whatever with the rest of the league, and they have a good lineup and a solid 1-2 punch at the top of their rotation, they could potentially make a playoff run. It's probably very unlikely with how stacked the top of the National League is. But yeah, I'm going to put them as a third place team right now, just with how good the top 2 teams in this division are. Now, with that being said, let's go on to the second place team. And from all the projections I've seen, this, I guess, is a hot take, but I'm going to go with the New York Mets in second place. I love this New York Mets teams. I think they made some very good moves this offseason in acquiring Francisco Lindor and getting James McCann and getting Carlos Carrasco. But at the end of the day, I don't think they're quite as good as the Atlanta Braves. I love Jacob deGrom. I think he's the best pitcher in all of baseball. I hope Noah Syndergaard comes back halfway through the year and is an absolute stud again, because I'm really high on Noah Syndergaard. He's a really good ball player there. Marcus Stroman is really good, and he didn't play last year, so that's going to be a big addition to them. They have a pretty solid bullpen back there as well, with Edwin Diaz being their closer out there. I believe Seth Lugo, I think I heard something about Seth Lugo being hurt for a little bit, but assuming he comes back, he'll be in their bullpen probably. They also traded for Joey Lucchesi, which will be kind of weird. Not really a big addition there, but, you know, still a guy worth mentioning. And their lineup is just stacked, man. Dom Smith was their backup first baseman, and now he's going to be in their lineup. Pete Alonso is going to be in that lineup, of course, and have a full season, and hopefully put up another 50 home run season like he did in his rookie campaign. Brandon Nimmo's actually a pretty underrated center fielder out there. Obviously, Francisco Lindor, we've seen his potential before. JD Davis is someone a lot of people sleep on. Jeff McNeil might be the second best second baseman in baseball behind DJ LeMahieu. James McCann is a stud, so I really do like this lineup. I didn't even mention Michael Conforto, who I really like as well. So the Mets are very, very good. I just don't think they're better than the Braves, and we'll talk about why in just a second. Now, we are going to be moving on to the Atlanta Braves, the last team in this countdown. If you made it this far, guys, be sure to leave a like on the video and hit that subscribe button. We're so close to 350 subscribers, so be sure to help me out with that. I appreciate each and every one of you sticking around this long. Thank you so much. Let's get into the Atlanta Braves and talk about why I think they're the best team in the National League East. Realistically speaking, I think they got a little bit better this offseason. The only thing I will say on their team that got worse is their bullpen, I will admit, because they lost Aaron O'Day, they lost Mark Melancon, and I can't really think of anybody that they added. But they have a great rotation with Ian Anderson, Max Fried. They added Charlie Morton. I really hope that Mike Soroka comes back and is healthy next year. At the end of the day, like I said, that's four oh yeah, they added Drew Smiley. I forgot was the other guy. They overpaid him, but whatever. Great rotation there in Atlanta, and an absolutely phenomenal, like a lights out lineup right there. Ronald Acuna Jr., one of the best players in baseball, top 5, top 6 in my opinion. Freddie Freeman, top 10 player in baseball. They're one of 3 teams with 2 top 10 players. One of them is not a playoff team. So yeah, Ronald Acuna Jr., Freddie Freeman. They added Marcell Ozuna, who unfortunately can't DH. That's going to kind of suck for them. Dansby Swanson was pretty good last year. Ozzie Albies is a stud. Travis d'Arnaud had a great year last year. I love Christian Pache as a prospect. He's coming up. Austin Riley still has some potential as a third baseman over there. They did sign Pablo Sandoval to a minor league deal, I believe, and Jake Lamb to a minor league deal. So they're trying out some options there at third base. But at least 1 through 7 in this lineup, I absolutely love. And I do think that they're going to be a force to be reckoned with next year. And I do think they still have a pretty solid bullpen there with Chris Martin and Will Smith being the 2 big pieces out there. Obviously, they're going to miss guys like Mark Melancon in that back end of the bullpen. But I think they'll be good enough without them to make a deep playoff run and win this division because they seem to be the most complete team on this list. Other teams seem to be lacking in other spots. So let me know what you guys think of my list. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this. You guys are the best. I really appreciate all the support we've gotten so far on this channel. Check the links in the description, like I said, to check out my podcast, Twitch, Instagram, all that jazz. And I will see you guys all in the next video.